Joining us now is Jonathan Keeperman, founder of Passage Press, otherwise known as Lomez. He founded Passage Press, a book company, and was a professor at UC Irvine for 10 years and left because it's academia and obviously terrible. They tried to dox him and cancel him last year, which we don't take very kindly here in the Charlie Kirk Show, of which we try to give him the biggest possible platform imaginable. Mr. Lomez / Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Charlie, it is great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here. You know, I've been watching your show for a long time. I think you've done some amazing work helping to build this America First Trump coalition, and you deserve a lot of credit for what you've done. So, you know, this is great to be here and share this audience with you.
Thank you. So, Jonathan, you're incredibly smart, obviously a professor. I'd love at a different time. I'd love to have you on, just talk about what it was like being a professor at UC Irvine as a white male conservative in the English department. I'm sure that you were fighting for the classics while your counterparts were not. But Jonathan, I want to talk to you about, because we were going to have Steve Salier on, but he was unavailable. Yeah. I know you published his book. This raging and spirited and passionate dialogue and conversation that has been happening on X the last day around H-1B visas, high tech, and mass migration. How should we think about this issue from an America First perspective?
Yeah, so, you know, this is a very healthy debate, and I'm glad we're having it. I've seen, you know, a lot of hot air on Twitter, and certainly some feelings have gotten hurt, and people have said some things that I'm sure they regret or wish they could take back. But it's good to get this all out in the open. You know, one thing we saw over the last 6 months to a year with Trump getting elected was bringing on these new coalition partners from Silicon Valley in the tech world. This includes Elon Musk. This includes the guys in the All In podcast. This includes Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel, of course. And I think to some extent, this new, you know, coalitional partner underestimated or didn't really understand the salience of immigration and American First policy with regards to labor policy for the Trump coalition. And they got out over their skis a little bit over the weekend supporting H-1Bs. And now, you know, you're seeing a lot of pushback from people on the right, instructing them about why this is a bad idea, about how there are actually better workarounds than just importing an infinite amount of H-1Bs from places around the world, primarily India, but elsewhere too, that we can actually build out our own labor supply for high-tech, high-skilled jobs that doesn't require importing people at lower wages to do that for us. And it's a fairly simple fix. And I think these guys are starting to figure that out and retreat a little bit from that position. And we're going to reform this coalition based on this new understanding. So that's the broad overview.
I love that. So you and I are in harmony, and the audience is in agreement around American workers first. We're not going to pander to oligarch multi-trillion-dollar companies. No exaggeration, worth trillions of dollars just because they don't want to pay American workers. But let me steel man the pro H-1B visa argument, and then I want to have you respond. They will say, if we don't import these 80 to 100,000 people a year, America will lose. It's about America winning. Our companies will not be able to complete the modern equivalent of the Manhattan Project when it comes to artificial intelligence. Therefore, for America to win, which you and I both want, for us to be able to win the AI arms race, which I imagine you and I both want, therefore, we must open up the H-1B visa process. What do you make of that argument?
Yeah, so it's a worthwhile argument to take seriously. And I think it starts with a bit of disagreement over the premise and what it means for America to, quote unquote, win. From an American First perspective, America winning means the flourishing of the American people inside of America. And that takes precedent over the people of the rest of the world. That doesn't mean we have to neglect or be hostile to the rest of the world, but America winning means American people flourishing. And the difference between Trump and the MAGA right and all that has come before, at least in my adult lifetime, is the priority on American people. So I want to emphasize that first. That's what comes first. Now, winning the AI race, winning the tech race is super important. And
Yes.
I don't want to make that subservient to, all other concerns, but it is very important. The way we do that is by bringing in absolutely necessary world-class talent. I don't think there's anybody on the MAGA right who wants to prevent people like Elon Musk from coming into the country. People like, Werner von Braun, Einstein, John von Neumann, the people from Operation Paperclip, the people who helped to get us to the moon, for example. We want to bring in that world-class talent. But there is a huge difference here between that world-class talent that can't be replaced by your average worker and then a guy working some entry-level job for $70,000. That can be an American job for Americans. So I think something that's happening here is this conflation between this extreme level of talent that Elon Musk and others, including people on the MAGA right, want to bring into the country, and then just the flood of, replacement level, mediocre talent, engineering talent that can easily be replaced and be done by American workers. And we want to preserve those jobs for Americans.
Yeah, and so I agree on the premise. It's just there is this cataclysmic undertone that if we don't do this, we will fail. Can you talk about the brain power that we actually have been able to train and unleash domestically? We have 330 million people here. Is there untapped capacity amongst the American body politic to be able to accomplish some of these goals without having to go to Hyderabad?
Absolutely. And this is the other thing. There is nothing the American people cannot outcompete the rest of the world on, given a truly level playing field for the American worker and for American talent to rise to the top. Something we've seen over the last decades with affirmative action, with disparate impact hiring, with the absolute degradation and breakdown of our higher ed system, with hiring practices with caps on, white men in management, white men on boards. We have actively suppressed our talent over the course of several decades. And all we need to do is take the knee off the neck of the white American worker and the American worker broadly, and we will see all the talent we need. Now, again, there may be some room to bring in other world-class talent from elsewhere, but the American people, if nothing else, have proven over the decades that we can do anything we set our mind to and anything we set our talent to.
So let's now do the opposite. Try to explain to the tech world, if they're listening, why this is such a passionate issue for the MAGA base. I was put on a group text last night with a lot of the tech bros and some of the MAGA people, and the premise of the group text was, MAGA people, explain to us why you do not agree with us. Because this particular issue, I have to say, has some of the most fervent zeal by its proponents. I think you would agree with that, Jonathan, that if you are in favor of mass H-1B, you do not even understand the counter argument. And to their credit, they wanted to hear it. A couple things. Number one, big tech has censored us and smeared us and treated us terribly. Why would we then accommodate their policy wishes that also is against and contradictory to the core element of the ascendant political majority in this country? Makes no sense, right? I mean, this entire world has been very hostile to us. Is there something you'd like to add that to explain the sentiment of the average Trump voter and how they view this to somebody who does not see it? They don't get it at all. A CEO of a multi-trillion-dollar company.
Yeah, and I have to say it's been very heartening, the fact that these tech guys who put forward these H-1B positions want to hear what we have to say. They understand on some level that they don't get it and are willing to listen, and I give them a lot of credit for that. And I do actually trust that there's a lot of mutual interest here, and that this coalition can stay together despite some disagreements over this H-1B question. And what I'd say is simply, from the time that Trump came down the escalator in 2016, when he announced his run initially, the thing he was running on was immigration. And it was preserving America and its inheritance and its largesse for the American people. That is what MAGAism at bottom is based on. It's based on preserving an America that we know and understand and is the greatest country in the world, preserving its country and preserving its people and its wealth for its people. What this H-1B issue does is cut directly against that fundamental position that gave rise to MAGA in the first place. Now, we can haggle over some of the details and how we negotiate around identifying talent. But what the tech right needs to understand is this coalition exists, MAGA exists, Trump exists because of this question over immigration. We fought for decades on this issue. We have finally won a resounding victory here in 2024, and we don't intend to relent on this issue now just because these tech guys need a couple of engineers in their department. This is going to be something we fight on. It's something we care about, and it's something they need to understand as a fundamental issue for the MAGA right.